Japan is an island nation in East Asia with a long and rich history. It's one of my favorite countries in the world and has made a lasting impact on popular culture with its technology and entertainment industries. But is it any good if you want to escape the West and move there? Let's find out. If you like this kind of content and you want to see more of it for free, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment below. Okay, let's get right into it. The beautiful country of Japan is situated in the Pacific Ocean to the east of Korea and China. Japan has a vibrant, rich, and very interesting history with samurais, ninjas, and shoguns, empires, revolutions, isolationism, and so on. It is to date the only country to get nuked by atomic weapons during World War II. After this disaster, Japan experienced very strong economic growth and became the second largest economy in the world in the early 70s. However, since 1995, Japan has been in stagnation, with an economy that isn't growing much and a population that is actually declining. It's ranked very high on the Human Development Index, is extremely safe, and has one of the highest life expectancies in the world. People aren't dying very fast, but they aren't reproducing either. The Japanese archipelago lies on the Ring of Fire, which means earthquakes, tsunamis, and volcanic eruptions are pretty common. In fact, it is the 17th most likely country where you'll experience a natural disaster. Japan has a predominantly temperate climate and boasts some rather impressive nature, consisting mostly of forests and mountains. Capital of Tokyo is the most populous metropolitan area, with nearly 40 million residents. It's a futuristic metropolis and truly a sight to behold. I would definitely recommend visiting Tokyo at least once in your life. For the longest time, it was my number one city to visit after seeing Lost in Translation. Japanese culture is well known and very varied, ranging from impressive historical things like ninjas and samurai to contemporary entertainment such as Nintendo and anime. Their movies and video games are top notch, and I personally thoroughly enjoy them. However, if all you've ever seen of Japan is through media, this video might be a bit of a shock to you. It certainly was for me, because I really hoped Japan would be a top location to move to, but it sadly isn't. However, if you are 100% dedicated to making it work and really apply yourself to living in Japan, you can most certainly do so. Just keep in mind that it will take much more time, effort, and money than it would in many other countries. Alright, let's go over the benefits of living in Japan. Japan is one of the safest countries in the world. Violence is a very rare occasion, terrorism non existent. There's always the possibility of a war with China or North Korea, I suppose, but this is pretty unlikely for the time being. Japanese cities like Tokyo can feel like a futuristic metropolis, with flashy neon signs, high speed transportation, and high tech entertainment everywhere. Japan has a rich history full of interesting events samurai, shoguns, ninjas, hentai, anime, video games, you name it. This archipelago has some very tranquil forests and impressive mountains. Japan's population is dying, and as a foreigner, you can get a breeding visa, which means you can enter the country with the express purpose of impregnating a Japanese national. I'm not kidding, this is really a thing. You can get a visa on arrival for 90 days, which can be extended. Japan isn't like countries in Southeast Asia, it actually has seasons. If you like diversity and variety in your weather, Japan is a good choice. The country is often at the forefront of technology, be it video games, VR, sex toys, or robots. The concept of hikimori, or severe social withdrawal, is a real problem in Japan. Hundreds of thousands of men are withdrawing from social life, which is devastating for their population growth, but does open the door for you if you're interested in dating Japanese women because there's less competition. Japanese people tend to be very respectful and polite, at least to your face. If you've got some weird fetish, it's almost certain you can find an outlet for it in Japan. Keep in mind the following downsides of living in Japan as well. You have to learn Japanese if you want to stay here and not be gimped for the rest of your life. Japan is in stagnation and the economy isn't growing much, if at all. It's expensive to live here, especially in cities like Tokyo. While a visa is easy to get, residence or citizenship are pretty difficult and come with many requirements and red flags. Japanese people are polite and friendly up front, but they can certainly be xenophobic and even racist. And it isn't like in the West where racism is considered bad, here it's just viewed as part of the deal. If you live in Japan for a few years, you'll be taxed on your international income. Japan's population is decreasing. In 2022 alone by over 500,000 people. So this country is definitely not growing but actually dying off. How does Japan fare on my scoring system? Based on its climate, level of English proficiency, cost of living, taxes on international income, economic growth, safety, and the logistics of moving and staying there. Japan's climate is decent, pretty similar to many Western nations, with pronounced seasons. If you want to visit, spring is probably the best time to go. The level of English proficiency of the average Japanese citizen is pretty low. So while you can communicate with professionals and highly educated people at a decent level, don't expect this to be the case with most normal citizens you'd interact with. Cost of living in Japan per month is elevated compared to most other Asian countries, especially in Southeast Asia. A single person can expect to have to spend at least $1,600 per month for a very basic life. If you live in a hip neighborhood in Tokyo, that number can easily triple or quadruple. If you are a permanent resident, you are taxed on your worldwide income. You are already considered a permanent resident if you have been living in Japan for more than 5 years in the last 10 years. Japan's economy has been largely stagnating for many decades now, and its growth is poor at best at a measly 1%. Japan is easily one of the safest countries in the world, and you'd really have to go out of your way to find yourself in a dangerous situation. Even then, as a foreigner, it's unlikely you'd be in real trouble. A short-term stay up to 90 days is possible without a visa, and you can apply for an extension. You can get permanent residency by either living in Japan for 10 consecutive years or qualify for a lot of requirements, such as having paid taxes, having a job in Japan, and so on. Citizenship in Japan is possible through birth and naturalization. There are plenty of requirements, however, and dual nationality isn't even allowed. However, a Japanese passport does grant you visa-free or visa on arrival access to 189 countries and territories. If we take the average of all these numbers, we can see that Japan gets a very disappointing 5.6 out of 10, which puts it solidly at the lower end of countries you'd want to move to permanently. And finally, to end the video, let's answer the question, how is life in Japan as a foreigner? Well, life in Japan as a foreigner is a mixed bag for sure. Either you're completely into the culture and love it to death, do everything you can to make it work, and ignore all the blatant red flags Japan has as a place to live, or you are aware of its many flaws and see it as nothing more than a spot to sometimes visit. I'm in the latter camp, and while I really enjoy the culture, Japan just isn't all too great in most practical aspects. There's the higher cost of living compared to nearby better options, the language barrier, the fact that getting residency isn't that easy, and that you have to pay taxes upon being a resident. In addition, I don't see the point in moving to a country with a stagnant economy and a shrinking population. I'd much rather go to a booming nation, where you can profit from its inevitable rise. That being said, Japan has some definite benefits, such as its high level of safety, healthcare, usually friendly locals, a clean environment, and beautiful nature. In addition, if you're into some weird fetishes, Japan is the place to go. And let's not forget about things like soapy massages and blowjob bars, although you can get those too in Southeast Asia at 1/5 of the price. Japan is a de facto Asian Western country, and this explains why it is also collapsing and why it isn't a good option. In summation, and it pains me to say this, I would not recommend Japan for any of your bases. Visit it, enjoy it while it still exists, but don't put down permanent roots in Japan. There we go. Hope you learned something about this country. I'm curious to hear about your thoughts. Are you interested in moving to Japan? Or have you been living there for a while and want to add something I forgot to mention? Let me know in the comments below. In any case, if you want more information about other countries you can move to, check out my website at escapingthewest.net. If you want to learn more about why the Western world is going down, how you can make sure you're protected, or if you just want to support my channel, consider checking out my new book available on Amazon, link in the description. Thank you all so much for watching and see you in the next video.